We're going to start with text from a book that we don't have in English here, so I did a translation, so I'm going to read for you. It's a book, it's a text actually, entitled Be Compassionate. This was written by the spirit of Kaibar Shuto, who is a writer and who was actually a writer in the Spiritist in Brazil. And he sent this text through the mediumship of Chico Xavier, and we are going to talk about compassion today. So it's a text that will help us to really understand what is compassion. So the text starts with, without compassion, there is no charity. The tears shed in the vivid warmth of pity corrode the dense chains of trial. Let us banish from ourselves the raw, insensitive before the scenes of anguish that unfold along our path. Compassion is the spontaneous and selfless sympathy that opposes gratuitous moral and material antipathy towards those who awaken it in us, without which it becomes fruitless. When the suffering of others does not move us, divine guidance decrees that we too shall experience it, so that we may understand the pain of others and prepare ourselves to support them. Only consoling pity brings joy to the spirit, fostering elevation and worth. Let us flee from false compassion, which shows itself in crocodile tears, grandiose gestures, and pompous exclamations in the artificial settings of pretense. True compassion is measured by the fraternal dedication and care it promotes. To it, we own the gradual depopulation of the moral purgation zones and the spirit world. Let yourself be touched by the moving scenes of crying crisis, many times mingled with blood and sweat. Yet do not stop there. Seek to resolve them. Explore the winding alleys of need and bring relief to the souls who struggle in despairs within the cage of their own bodies. Have compassion not only for the glaring scenes of inner collapse, but also for the suffering masked by silence and pride, naivety and inexperience. Flood with love the hearts held in the vacuum of boredom. Protected, abandoned childhood, for the little travelers of the flesh are in need of guides. Support with coins and bless with words the ragged beggars who are only cursed by the stray dogs roaming the streets, and with the certainty that sincere compassion never expresses cowardice to undermine good, nor ridiculously to incite others' laughter. Let us reserve it as a force of soul, renewal and inner light of the true life, eternalized by God. Be compassionate. So, let's elevate our hearts and our thoughts to our divine friend and master that was able to show us during his time within us 2,000 years ago what is really being compassionate. Our master, that so many times moved towards our friends and our spiritual brothers and sisters with deep compassion. Let us open our hearts and our minds to embrace this feeling, complying with this law, to be able to learn, to be able to see our road and ourselves with the lenses of compassion, to make our lives better, to make our world better. Thank you for this opportunity, Master Jesus, and all the spirituality that involve us today, so we can reflect and we can become better, more and more. So be it. All right, so let's start with this passage from Luke, chapter 6:36. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. So, merciful is being compassionate, so the same meaning from the law of mercy, from the law of compassion. So we are going to talk about today, this is what we are going to talk about today, how to practice compassion, how to embrace compassion in our hearts. Let's start with the objectives. Do you truly know, or do we really truly know what compassion is and how it naturally shows up in our daily lives? What are simple or intentional ways that we can develop this virtue in our hearts? What are the personal and collective benefits of practicing compassion regularly? So we are going to talk about those three questions today. So we're going to keep in mind these three objectives during our talk to see if we change our concept about compassion and how we can apply this feeling in our lives and how we can develop this feeling in our hearts. Let's start with the sentence that we read from the text that we just brought. Without compassion, there is no charity. So here, Kaya Bar Shudo, he is telling us that compassion comes before charity. We talk a lot in the Spiritist movement about charity. We need to be charity. We need to help others. We need to do this, do that. However, are we doing that with compassion? So Kariba Shudo, he says in the text that we read that we should not ignore those that are in suffering, those that are passing through a hard time. That we should care and help, or try to help others, to make their hearts full of happiness and love. Because this brings the same feelings to our hearts. And this is what just like wants from us. To be kind and caring. We will also see in the Gospel according to Spiritism a beautiful text from the Spirit Michael. This is the chapter 13, item 17, entitled Compassion. It's a beautiful text that it will say that compassion is the virtue which draws you closer to the angels. I love this sentence. So compassion is a virtue that will take us closer to the angels. Compassion is the sister of the charity, which also conducts you to God. When it is deeply felt, act of loving, devotion, and devotion is forgetful of ourselves, combined with abnegation. Abnegation is the feeling that help us to turn ourselves to others, to really think about others, to work towards others, in favor of those lost or less fortunate than ourselves. It is the virtue which the divine Messiah practiced throughout his entire life and which he taught in his saintly and sublime doctrine. So compassion is the feeling that Jesus showed throughout his entire life. However, in the Spiritism, we have a motto. Outside charity, there is no salvation. We all know that, right? We have read that so many times. We have heard that so many times. Outside charity, there's no salvation. Then we start doing or making soup for to distribute to the poor people, which is great. Nothing against it. This is wonderful. Mainly in Brazil, where we have so many people that need that help. But then when we don't have those people, what we're going to do? How we can practice charity. And salvation, exactly what does it mean, salvation? Without charity, there's no salvation. So, again, in the Gospel according to Spiritism, and this is an entire chapter that we are going to talk about this motto, outside charity, there's no salvation. There is a beautiful text from Paul, the Apostle. He was also part of the spirits that codified the Spiritism. And he says again what he said in his letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13, which is very famous too, which is also became in song, beautiful song music. And we also repeats all the time. He says that faith, hope, and charity exist, but the greatest of these is charity. And he says in the same chapter, "Thought I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have no charity, I'm becoming as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal."